Hello everyone, welcome back to my another video. So this is going to be the episode 3 of the MERN Stack series, and on this video we will be setting up the database for our Todo routes, and basically we will be working on this controller section where we will do the crowd functionality. And by the end of this video you should know how to create a cluster on MongoDB cloud, and how you will also know how to integrate your web server with MongoDB. So if you guys enjoy the content on the channel, feel free to give a thumbs up to the video and subscribe to the channel. And without further ado, let's get started. I'll be putting, like on my left, I'll be putting the VS Code as usual, and all of the other things that we use for testing or setting up anything, I will be doing on the right hand side. On my right hand side, let's go ahead and set up the database first, and then we can work on integrating it on our server. So if you create an account on MongoDB Cloud, once you sign up and answer all of the personal questions, you would be prompted with this kind of screen. So it's been a while, they have changed their GUI, so we're gonna have to work through it together. Over here it says it gives me 3 options, and first 2 options are paid, but we don't want to go through for the paid thing, because we're not creating a production ready app. So we can just select the shared from here, and as you can see it's free, and you don't even have to enter any credit cards or anything, and it will be more than enough for you, your personal projects or testing some apps. I'm gonna click on create. So once I do that, it's gonna ask me for provider. We can just leave it as Amazon Web Services, and I think it picked up my location, so I think that should be the nearest Amazon Web Services server that I live in. So over here, what you want to do is, if it doesn't pick up the location by automatically, you want to select the nearest location from where you live. So it's regarding, it will matter in terms of performance, where your server lives. Ours is going to be on this right here. And if I scroll down, cluster name, I think I should be able to edit this. So for the cluster name, I'll just do JavaScript programming cluster, and click on create cluster. So now it will ask me for a username and password, and I will just do JavaScript 123, and for password I'm gonna use the same thing. Let's see if I do the same thing. Yep. Don't worry about it, doesn't matter, because later on I'm gonna switch it to allow only my IP here. So it's totally fine. So you want to create user once you enter the username and password. And if I scroll down, okay, what do I want to do? Network access. We can set up network access later on, or my current IP. Oh, I can do my current IP and do finish. Now once I do finish, it will prompt me to set up the database. Now I want to go to database, and it's right now it's initializing. So when you do this for the first time, it might give you, it might take some time for your clusters to get set up. And let's look over all of these things while we're here. Oh, this is the network access, where you can, I'm going to change it to allow it from anywhere, which I will change later on. So that is done. Now go to database. Is it still setting up? Yes. Now eventually when this is set up, we want to create a collection to add our to-do list. Looks like it's ready or not. I'm totally confused because they changed a bunch of stuff on this. Let's see, let's click on connect, and we can use the connect with compass. And here you would just copy this connection string, because we need this to like on our web app, I mean web server, to make connection to our database. So I will just copy this, and while the database is setting up, I'm going to come back to our web server and go to env file, and over there I'll just do Mongo URI equals to, and paste the connection string there, because you don't want to put this in your regular files, because whenever you're pushing this code to GitHub, right, you don't want to share this information to any other like folks. So here, the thing that I need to change is this password right here. I'll just use Javascript 123. I think that's what I used. And once I do that, eventually when I create a new database, when this setup is ready, I will need to update this test as well. Alright, database, is my cluster ready? Let me refresh this real quick. Alright, so I connected, like I said. Oh, okay, now, okay, I think it's ready. Now what you want to do is you want to click on create. Oops, looks like that's not the one. Okay, here you go. It wasn't completely ready, so I thought, like it didn't prompt me with anything, it didn't even say, like it's ready, so it was kind of confusing. Now what we can do is on Mongo, right, in order to view all of your data, what you want to do is you want to go to browse collections. If I go there, I don't have any data up here. I can, if you want to, like play around with any sort of data and you don't want to create it by yourself, you can just do load sample data set here. It will give you a bunch of like data that you can use to just like create a test tabs. But what I can do now is I think I should be able to add my own data. Yeah. Once you are here, if you want to create your own database, just click on add my own data, and for the database name I will just say MERN app TODO, and the collection name is, it's going to be TODO, and I'm going to create, okay, database name is invalid, please enter a valid database name. MERN TODO, is that going to work? Nope. What's the format they require? Oh, I don't want to go there. Just do MERN. All right. Now we have created our database. So the name of the database is MERN, and we have a TODO collection over here where we will add a bunch of TODOs. Now what we can do is, if I go back to overview again and go to connect again, connect using compass. Okay, it doesn't change it, right? So what we need to do is, since we know the database name, right, rather than having test over here, what we want to do is we want to add the database name up here, which is called MERN. Alright, so yeah, we're gonna check later on if we did this right or not. So now, if everything is good, what we can do now is go to our source directory, and we want to create a file where we will attempt to make a connection. Now inside the source, create a folder called database, and inside that create a file called db.js. Okay, this is where we will make the connection. And if you remember, we installed a package called Mongoose. So this is what we will be using to interact with our Mongo database. So I want to import that Mongoose require. I'm going to get that from Mongoose as well. Now I'm going to create a function which is going to be an asynchronous function. So from here now, every time we interact with database, because we have to make a certain network calls, right? So everything is going to be asynchronous. I will name the function as connect database. It's equals to, it's going to be async function, and I will create an arrow function for this. And since we're dealing with async, I will do async await, and I will wrap the await within the try block so that we can catch any sort of errors. Now inside the try block, we will attempt to make a connection. So to make a connection, create a constant called connect, and that is equal to, we will await, because this is an asynchronous action. We're going to use Mongoose, the package that we just imported earlier, and there is a method called connect, and it takes the Mongo URI as a argument, which we have already set up on our env file, right? I'll just copy that Mongo URI from env and just pass it here. So I can just do process.env.mongo URI. Let's save that one. Now, if there is any sort of error, we will just log the error. And if we can't connect to the database, we want to stop the process. To do that, we can just do process.exit. And if you pass the status code of 1, it will stop the process. And that's pretty much it in terms of like setting up the integration. You know what, let's do one thing as well. Since we're logging the error, let's log the success case as well. I'm going to do console.log, and let's use the template string Mongo connected at, I'm going to use the $sign and curly braces, and from the connect constant that we have over here, we can extract the host out of it, meaning, you know, like what is the host of our database. What we can do is just use that constant connect dot, there is a method called connection dot host. If I'm not wrong, that should give me the host for the database. Yeah, we'll find it out later on if we did something wrong. Now, all we need to do now is export the function that we just created, module.exports equals to connect database. Now, if we did everything correctly, I believe we don't have to come back on this file. Now let's make a use of this connect database function. So in order to use this one, what we need to do is we want to go to the index.js file and import this function there and make a use of it. So I want to go to index.js file. On top, I will do something like const connect database equals to require, and I think I'm going to do dot slash database slash db. And you can call this function anywhere before you even start the server. What I like to do is as soon as my server is up and it starts listening to certain port, I like to put that function inside the server. So if this database is failed for some reason, our server will stop too, because there's no point of having the server open if you can't connect to database. I can just do connect db, not db, this is connect database, and call that function. All right, let's close this one. Let's clear. Now I'm going to do run npm run dev. All right, looks like we did something wrong. It says authentication failed, so let's go to network access. Let's edit this at current IP, save it. Let's do it again. It is just now active. Let's run it again. It's saying authentication failed. Okay, I want to go to database, connect your application. There's a password. Let's just copy that back there, paste it. Let's try it again. Maybe I copied the wrong Mongo URI. But still, go to browse collection. Alright, this is the debugging session now. Hey guys, so I just found out, like the reason it was crashing was because I added the wrong password, because it threw me off. I feel like, like I did everything right, but it was just my, like stupid mistake, like I added uppercase S instead of the lowercase one, so that was my bad. So now, if you followed my instruction properly and if you added your password correctly, you shouldn't get that issue that I just saw. So that is good to know, because you run into like various issues, like whenever you're working with programming. So that's the nature of the game. But now we have figured out like what was wrong. Let's like continue with our lesson. As you can see now, like this is telling me like our database is connected here on this host right here. So that is good to know, and this will let us know that our server is up and running. Okay, that is good. Now let's minimize that server. Now we will use this database later on while we start adding the to-dos or like manipulating the data. Now what we want to do is, on the source directory, before we even interact with the database, we want to create a model. So basically the models are, even though MongoDB is a schema-less, meaning like you can store any sort of data, but you want to have some sort of schema defined by yourself so that you can prevent the bad data cases. So that's why we'll be using models. On your source directory, create a folder called models. Oh no, not models, models. And inside that model folder, I will create a file called todo model.js. Here I'm gonna write a schema for all of my data, right, that I want to store in terms of to-do list. And every time we're dealing with any sort of Mongo activities, we will need a package mongoose equals to require, that is mongoose. And then now we will create a constant called to-do schema. Inside that we will make sure like we can tell the mongoose that what are the data type that we want to store. So I can do something like const to-do schema equals to, there is a function called schema within the mongoose library, so we will be using that mongoose dot schema, and it takes an object, and inside that object you can define the data that you want to deal with if you're dealing with to-do schema. So for this one, what we can do is the first data that we want to store on this to-do schema is to-dos, right? Let's just make it singular, to-do. And here you can define a object of how that to-do should look like. You can define a type. For the type, this to-do is going to be basically a string, and you can provide the value saying, you know, like whether it is required field or not. Since we are just dealing with the to-do related apps, and if we can't get the to-do, right, that means, you know, like we did something wrong. So meaning this is a required field. So there is a field called required, and inside that you can just pass true over here and you will be good. But what I like to do is I like to create an array and pass true there, and let's say if the user doesn't pass the true, then we can display the message, please add to do. Alright, so now we have a to do. Now what we also want to have is we want to have a timestamps. You can just add a timestamps manually and do date.now method to get the current timestamp. But the easiest way, I think, you know, like you can do this is as soon as this object ends, right, inside this schema, you can pass a second argument as an object, and inside that object you can just do time stamps of true. So what this will do is every time you deal with any sort of creation or, you know, like updating, you know, like if you're creating or updating any database or any data within your database, it will record that time, and it will if you, let's say if you're creating, it will create a created at field, and if you're updating it, it will add a data called updated at, I think, if I'm not wrong. So if you just pass it as a second object, you're good to go. You don't have to add manually. Now in terms of schema, I think that should be it for our schema. Now only thing left is to export it. I'm going to do module.exports. I'm going to use the mongoose again before exporting this model. I'm going to do mongoose and dot. There is a function called model in mongoose, and inside that it takes two arguments: name of the model, which is going to be to-dos or to-do, and then the next argument is the schema that you just created, which is to-do schema. Alright, now we have our model set up. Now what we want to do now is we want to make a use of it, right? So in order to make a use of it, we want to go to our controllers file, and here I'm going to bring that to-do that I just to-do schema that I just exported over here, right? So I can simply do const to-do equals to require, and inside that, let's see, where am I? I think I'm gonna have to do dot slash go to models slash to-do model. Let's save that one, and now I'm gonna open a postman on my right hand side in order to test this endpoint. Let's deal with the get request first. And in order to interact with database, since this is going to be the asynchronous action, what you want to do is pass a async keyword here, and we will do all of our database interactions within try-catch block. Now inside the try-catch or inside the try, we want to attempt to find all of the to-dos, right? So what we could do is do const to-dos equals to await, and we can call this model right here. I can simply copy that, paste it right there, dot. Since we're not, involved in like finding any particular to-dos. Right now we're just trying to find all of the to-dos from our database, but once we set up a user on future episodes, we will find the to-dos based on user. But for now we will just find all of the to-do list from our database. So in order to find everything from particular schema, you can just do like name of that schema dot find, and that's it. It should return all of the to-do list that you have. Okay, now let's see if we can't find the to-do, then what should we do? In that case, then I can just copy this response from here, paste it right there, but it's not going to be a 200, it's going to be a 404, and we can simply say cannot find to-dos. So that will be our message. And let's see if we were able to find it, we can simply do copy this and paste it right there. And in terms of JSON, we just don't want to send the message right now. We want to send the to-dos that we just got. I want to get rid of that, and I can just copy that to-do and just send it like that. Now let's see if we can get rid of this because we have a 204 all set up. Let's get rid of that. And I find to-dos, and let's see if we do success and if we do failure, that's the case. Okay, I think if I'm not wrong, that should be it, but we will test it out in a bit. Let me go through this real quick so that I don't have to go in depth for the all other routes, because we're going to do the similar thing. Only the thing difference is going to be the method that we'll be using. So we grabbed a model out of the model that we created earlier. Now what we are doing over here is we're calling this function as an asynchronous function because we're talking to database right now. We have a regular try and catch block. On try block, we are trying to find all of the list of to-dos that we have on database, which in this case would be just be empty array. And if we're able to find that to-do, or like at least make a connection to our database and try to search for to-dos, then we will send the 200 request with the JSON of whatever we get it back from the database. Now let's see if something went wrong and we couldn't find the to-do, or we even can't make a connection to the database. We will just return 404 with the message saying cannot find to-dos. That's pretty much it. As I mentioned earlier, we're gonna be changing this later on when we set up our user, so that let's say if the user one has 3 to-dos, then we will only grab 3 to-dos for user one, and we want to grab all of the to-dos. I hope that makes sense. Now let's test it out. So fingers crossed. Now if I want to hit the same endpoint, which is going to be our localhost /rest/todos, I'm going to use the get request because we haven't set up the database for the other routes. I'm going to send it. As you can see, looks like it worked. It sent out the to-dos of empty array. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because we haven't added any like to-dos yet, because our to-dos should be empty, which is expected. Now let's start writing the code for add project, right? Let's say we want to add something. Before even adding something to the database, what we will be doing is we will be getting the data from the like client, right? So what you want to do is on your Postman, let's copy this. I'm going to create a new tab here, paste that in there. We're going to use the post request. And what you want to do is while sending the data to the web server, you want to click body, and we want to click on this URL encoded. So that's the reason, if you remember from our last tutorial, we added these 2 lines so that we can process the JSON and the URL encoded data from the client. So that's why we use this one. Now I want to go to to-do controller, and here for the body I want to pass a to-do, and I will just say first to-do. And if I before I even send it, we have a request object over here too, right? So I'll just do, what I'll do is console.log request.body.todo. Let's save that one. I'm going to open the terminal and I'm going to send this request and watch the terminal here. I'm going to send it. Right now it says fast to do. So the reason I showed you this is because we're going to need this while making a change to our database, because this is the data that we need to add, right? Whenever a user hits this post request with the following body. Now let me close the terminal and let me, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Let me get rid of this console as well. Now what I'll do is I'm going to start writing the code for adding the to-dos. So now let's do one thing. I want to do const body or body data equals to, we know that it's coming from request dot body dot to do, and then now this is going to be a asynchronous function as well. It's going to be async. Now I'm going to have a try and catch block, and inside the try block I will hold on. So how we want to do this? So we are able to, right now we're able to get the data from the client, right? And now we need to, oh, hold on, before we even go to try and catch block, we need to create a new object from the model that we define. I can go simply here and do const new to do equals to new, and what's the name of the model that we imported? So that is to do itself, and inside that I can just pass the body data. Now it should create a new object based on the body data that we provided and based on the schema that we have. Now once we do that, we want to go to try block, and over there I can just do const to do equals to, it's going to be an asynchronous action, so we're going to use await and use the model name dot create. So this is the function that we're going to use to create any sort of new data, and it takes a object. Now what else? So inside this object we can specify what are the fields that we want to insert, which in this case is, right now we're just attempting to add the to do, right? So now I can just simply do to do is going to be the body data, because we already parsed the information out of the body and extracting to the data of to do. So I think this should work. And over here we don't have to specify the timestamps because we added this timestamps as true, right? So that should take care of all of the date related data that we need. Now once if this is successful, we are able to create the data. Now we can just send out the response, right? Res dot status of, it's going to be a 200 dot JSON, and inside the JSON we can just simply pass the to do. So that would be the new to do that we just created, and if there is an error, then I can just do res dot status, and then maybe let's do 400, which is going to be the client error, or like the bad request dot JSON. I'm going to send a message saying wrong data. Can get rid of this. Now before even like trying all of this, what we could do is we can add an extra check saying if body data does not exist, then what we can do is res dot status is going to be a 400 as well. It means that client error dot JSON I think I can just simply copy the message from here. Okay, if there is a body data, or if there is not a body data, because if there is a body data, then we should continue with our database thing. All right. Okay, since we're just dealing with one, we don't even need this actually. Okay, let's try to see if we were able to like create one. Okay, fingers crossed. Let's try. All right, looks like it created our data. As you can see, we can see our first todo. Now let's add the second data, and we're gonna go back to the MongoDB and set that data. Second todo, send it, and it updated the second one as well. Now if everything worked properly, we are able to like add the todo from here. Now we should be able to get the todos too, right? Now let's go to our get request and send it. As you can see, it has an ID, it has the name of the todo, it has a created at field and updated at field, which we wouldn't even have to work on it because it's just got cured by this timestamps to true function here. That is pretty cool. Now in order to check whether it's working or not, I can just go to browse collection, and if I go to todo, and I think I have to refresh this. Hold on, did it add it on the test one? Okay, it added on the test one. Okay, there is our to-do list now. Now we're able to create a to-do. All right, now let's open the Postman again. Now we added the we have now the ability to add the to-dos. Now we also have the ability to get the to-dos. Now let's work on updating the to-dos. For updating, it's going to be an async action as well. And the way we will be updating is we will be using params from the client, because we discussed that on the previous episode too, right? In order to use the put request, we're gonna have to pass some sort of ID here, and if we send it, then only we can get the request back, because we need the information on the param. So which in this case we will be using this ID right here. And once we have a a reference to this ID, we can manipulate the database for updating or deleting one. In order to do that, what we need to do is we can use Mongo's method again. Here, what I can do is I'm going to have a try catch block as well, since we're dealing with async actions. First, before even updating it, first we need to find out whether that param actually exists within the database or not. So I can just simply do const todo equals to await, and the name of the model is todo model dot, there is a method called find by ID, and then there we will pass the whatever the param that we are interested in, right? Which in this case would be request dot params dot ID. So that is the thing we will pass on. So basically what it will do is it will search in our database based on the ID that we just provided from here, which is going to come from the URL itself. Now once we do that, we need to check if this object, right, this todo object actually exists in our database or not. So we can just do a simple if condition. If there is not a todo, then I will send the status res dot status of 400.json, because we were not able to find that ID, right? So I can just do message, and the message would be todo ID does not exist. I think that should be good enough. And let's see now. Okay, now we are able to handle, let's see, if we don't pass the to do, now we were able to handle the failure case. Now let's say if we have a to do, then we want to continue and update it, right? Now in order to do that, what you can do is I'm going to create a constant called updated to do equals to it's going to be a await and name of the model, to do model, and then there is a function called find by ID and update. Find by ID and update. Inside that you can pass the arguments, like of what are the what is the thing that you want to update. So the first thing would be ID, request.params.id, and the second thing that you want to add to the data. All right, let's say if you find some sort of collection within the some sort of like database object within for this particular ID, then what you want to change, the change that we want to do is going to come from like body itself, from the request body, which in this case is going to be request dot body dot I think we named it as to do. Yep. So we want to change that one, and the last argument that I want to pass is, let's see if that ID does not exist at all. If that entry doesn't exist, then we want to create a new one. So I can just pass a object as a third argument and do new equals to true. Once we do that, it should create it should update the database, and if we don't have that data, it should create a new one. All right, now if this was successful, we will do something like res.status of 200.json, and inside that JSON I can just send the updated to do. All right, now if something is wrong, then I want to go to catch block, and I can just go here. Oops, not, I don't want it to do that. Cut this, go here. Now we handle the bad request part, so if something went wrong, then it should be 4 if I'm not wrong. 4 cannot update tables to do. All right, let's look over this one. We are trying to update the data. First, we are trying to find the data based on that ID. If that data doesn't exist, then we're trying to send the if that ID doesn't exist, then we are sending the bad request error. And now if we are able to find it, then we are using to do model that find by ID and update. We are using this ID and adding that as a data, which is going to be come from the body as well. And we are adding new to true. If that ID doesn't exist, then we're creating a new one. Okay, now we're sending the request of status 200 if everything went fine, and here we're just sending 4. All right, let's see. I think it should work. All right, now let's go to get request. We have the list of to-dos. Now I'm going to copy the ID from here because I need that for the put request. And I have passed the params, but I also need to pass the body, which is going to be a to-do. And here, what was the name of that to-do earlier? It says first to-do, right? Now let's change it. First to-do updated. Let's send it. Okay, it still sent me the first to-do. Interesting. Did it log anything on the console? Nope. All right, let's have a debugging session again. It's not updating. Okay, maybe I missed this one. I think this is where is the problem. Yep, there you go. So I was just passing the individual ID rather than individual to-do rather than passing the whole object. So if you run into this issue, you need to pass the whole body. So that way you can, you will be able to update the to-dos. Now let's see if it actually updated the to-dos. It says that updated, but we're not sure, right, if it actually updated or not. So now let's go to the get request and send it. As you can see, it updated that to-do now. Okay, now we are able to update our to-dos. Now the only thing left to do on today's video is to delete the to-dos. And I'm gonna go here. It's gonna be a async action as well. And you might have guessed we will have try and catch block. Now we're gonna use the similar thing where we checked it against updated. First we need to find by ID, and then once we find that ID by ID, once we use that find by ID, we need to make sure we are able to delete that. So we're gonna go to try block again, then const to do to be deleted equals to await to do model dot find by ID, and we're gonna get the request dot params dot ID. Once we find that, first we need to check if the to-do exists or not. So I will copy this block from updated, and we will do the same thing here. And let's see, what else do we have? We are able to send the bad request error if we can't find that to-do. But let's see if we are able to find the to-do. Then I think we can just use, okay, let me think about it. So over here we updated the to-dos. Now we did the error handling part. Now we can do, I think we can just simply do remove actually. Const, we don't even have to do, we can just do await. And so what is the name of the to-do that we have? This is the thing, right? To-do to be deleted. This is the thing that we just found. To-do to be deleted dot, there is a remove method. Remove, and we can just, if everything is successful, we can just send rest.status dot status is 200 dot JSON with the message saying something like to do with I can use I'm gonna use the $sign to do with request dot params dot ID deleted request with ID of this deleted. And then if there is something wrong, then we will just send out the request dot status. Status is going to be a 400 dot JSON and message. We can do something like, we can do 4 actually, because we handle the bad request portion. I just simply say cannot delete to-dos, and I think we can get rid of this, and this should be a object here. Okay, that should take care of that error. Now I'm going to create a new tab, and I'm going to copy this and go to delete, and we don't have to pass any body now because we just need an ID to delete it. Now the ID that we have here, which is starting with 62, is from this one. Well, I think it should be the first one, right? Yeah, the first one. Now if we did everything correctly, now as soon as we send it, it should delete the entry. Alright, what did we mess up? This doesn't look right. right, let's have a debugging session. All right. Okay, todo is to be deleted. Todo is to be deleted dot remove. Oh, you know what? I think we can use this function actually. I don't think we even need this. I think I over here todo model dot find by ID and delete. So that should take care of everything actually, if I'm not wrong. Find by ID and delete, and the ID that we will be passing is request of params dot ID. And we don't need this junk as well. Todo does not have, because we don't need to check. Yeah, let's get rid of this. And let's get rid of this one as well. Now save it. All right, now let's try again. Now if we send it, it says that todo with ID deleted. So this one, if actually it deleted, so I'm sorry, like I complicated the logic, like way too much, because it's pretty simple. Now if I go back to get todos, if I go there and I will just see the second todo, I can add a new todo again, and now I have a second todo, so I'll just add the first todo again. Send post, it works. Now if I come back, send it here, now it works as well. If I do put and I want to update the second todo, but in order to update the second todo, I need the ID from that second todo, which is this one right here. I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna send it. It said updated the second todo, so if I go to get request again, it says second todo updated. Now let's delete this todo. I'm just gonna copy this ID, paste it right there, send it. It says todo with ID deleted. Now let's go back here. I should see only one todo, which would be the first todo right here. There you go. Now we have the ability to create, read, update, and delete functionality on of our to-do list. I think that should be it for today's video, guys. So on the next episode, we will be looking at creating a user, and we will be working towards authentication. And once we finish authentication, and we're going to be dealing with the authorization, which we'll be using we'll be using JWT token, JSON Web Tokens to do that, and we will make all of these routes private so that only authenticated or authorized users can access this route. Right now, everyone can access this route. So we'll be working on that on the future episodes, and I think I'll end this video right here. So if you guys enjoy the content on the channel, please give a thumbs up to the video and subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Thanks.